You know, for a lot of people, the search for a life partner is more than just swiping on apps. It's a real spiritual journey. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating framework for that exact quest. A 5-step prayer of intercession, which just means praying for someone else, that's designed to unlock a partner God has planned for you, what some people call a kingdom spouse. So let's break down how this whole thing works.
Okay, so before we go any further, we've got to get on the same page. What in the world is a kingdom spouse? It's not a term you hear every day. So let's get a clear definition.
So here's the deal. A kingdom spouse isn't just someone you have amazing chemistry with. The whole belief here is that this is a partner specifically prepared for you by God, all as part of a much bigger divine plan. And it's this idea, this preordained partnership, that's the foundation for the entire prayer we're about to explore.
Right, so if you've got this idea of a divinely planned partner in your head, the next question is obvious. How do you find them? Well, this isn't about just sitting back and waiting. The source material frames this as a structured, spiritual search. It's all about actively getting involved in a process of prayer and getting yourself ready.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The whole approach is laid out in a clear 5-step process that's built on 2 absolutely key pillars. First, intentionality, meaning you're being super specific in what you're praying for. And second, faith, which is all about trusting in the outcome of that prayer.
Now, this is what I find so fascinating, where this prayer actually begins. The first couple of steps, they have nothing to do with finding someone else. Nope. They're all about preparing yourself. The focus is completely internal, on getting your own heart and soul ready for what's to come.
Let's dive right into the very first step of this prayer.
So the first prayer isn't even for a person. It's for your own personal alignment. The idea is to get your own heart right and totally in sync with God's will before our relationship even shows up. It's really about making sure your own foundation is rock solid first. And the actual prayer here, wow, it's really powerful. It's a prayer for personal wholeness, asking that you find your complete identity and satisfaction in your faith first. The whole goal is to walk into a marriage from a place of fullness, not from a place of neediness or lack. Makes so much sense, right?
Now, step 2 builds directly on that foundation of getting yourself ready. The second step is all about unlocking, or, clearing out, any personal baggage that could get in the way of a really healthy relationship. This is about tackling past hurts, old fears, or any of those soul ties that might be holding you back without you even realizing it. And listen to the language of the prayer here. It uses this super powerful image of breaking chains. It's a direct plea for healing from any past rejection or heartbreak. You're basically asking to wipe the slate clean to make room for that new healthy connection.
Okay, so once all that internal preparation is being worked on, the prayer's focus starts to shift outward. The next few steps are all about putting your faith in what the Source calls the divine intersection, that perfect moment when God arranges for 2 paths to finally cross.
And this brings us right to step number 3 in the process.
Okay, so here the prayer is an appeal to what's called the master orchestrator to perfectly line up 2 totally separate paths. It's a prayer for divine timing and perfect positioning, trusting that all the little circumstances will be arranged for that crucial first meeting to happen.
I just love this phrasing, a divine coincidence. It totally reframes how you think about it, doesn't it? The prayer isn't for some huge lightning bolt moment, but for what might look like a random event that's actually part of a perfect calendar. It's all about trusting the timing, even when it looks like just pure luck.
So after that divine coincidence happens, how do you actually know it's the right person? I mean, that's the big question, right? Well, step 4 tackles that head on. This step is a prayer for pure spiritual discernment. You're asking for the wisdom to recognize the right person, not based on some superficial checklist, but by seeing something deeper, something that just can't be faked.
And the prayer itself just captures this perfectly. It asks to have the scales removed from their eyes so they don't accidentally overlook the person God has chosen just because they don't fit some preconceived list of wants. The focus shifts from the outside stuff to recognizing those deeper qualities, like what the Source calls the fruit of the Spirit.
All right, the final piece of this whole framework is all about being faithful while you're waiting. It covers the last step of the prayer itself and gives some really practical advice for that time of patience and, you guessed it, more personal growth. This brings us to the 5th and final step of this intercessory prayer. This last step is so interesting because it's incredibly proactive. It's a prayer to guard the future relationship, before it even exists. You're asking for protection from outside drama, from distractions, or any delays that might try to get it off track.
And the key phrase here is that hedge of protection. It's a prayer not just for the two people, but for the union itself, asking that it's shielded from harm, and that, when it happens, its ultimate purpose will be to bring glory to the kingdom. Now, to make this whole practice really effective, the source gives a few final tips. First, ground your prayers in Scripture to give them strength and direction. Second, be consistent and persistent. This isn't a one-and-done kind of request. And finally, and this brings everything full circle, the advice is to actively focus on your own personal growth and purpose while you wait. Don't just sit around waiting for the phone to ring, so to speak.
And this really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This whole framework is about praying to find a partner, right? But just look at how much of it is actually about personal preparation, healing your own stuff, and focusing on your own growth. So what does that tell us about the journey of finding love? Maybe it suggests that the path to finding the right person always begins with becoming the right person first.